At the Maritime Museum. Thanks to Emily for getting us tickets to go on this little boat tour thing that we're gonna go on here. So we're just gearing up for that. Nice weather for it. Got a westerly breeze, 16 miles out of the northeast, 16 knots in the water. Just kidding, I have no idea what I'm doing.
And feel free to move about the boat while we're underway. Again, thanks for joining us and enjoy the trip.
Perfect. We can move around the boat, huh?
The Kennebec River. This is Maine's second largest river. It's draining about 38% of the state of Maine. That's a lot of land area because Maine is almost as big as all the rest of the New England states combined. And we're going to be turning into Fiddler's Reach. Notice as we pass this red buoy that the tide is going out, so the natural flow of the fresh water and the salt water are both flowing back to the ocean at this hour. When the tide is high, it actually touches the base and travel on the river pretty often, so it was part of the job. See the residents in there. These trees have grown up since the station was built. It was 1889 that the lighthouse and the other structures were built. These are not tall like coastal lighthouses. A coastal lighthouse has to be seen from many, many miles out into the ocean. These can only be seen to the next curve in the river. It's point-to-point navigation. What's important for these is that they be reliable, and that depends on the keeper of the lighthouse. So this was a federal agency, civilian federal agency, the Lighthouse. So keeping the glass clean, keeping the walkways shoveled of snow, this is year-round work. We see it on a beautiful summer day. It's easy to forget how unpleasant some of the weather would be. Fiddler's Reach were working in 1912 when a steamship came through, but they were invisible because of dense fog. So 1912, the year that the Titanic hit an iceberg in clear weather in the vast ocean, Captain of the Ransom B. Fuller, with many passengers aboard, could see nothing, but he knew approximately where he was, had done this route many times, and he turned very slowly. Well, unfortunately, he hit Arousic Island and got stuck. They realized that if such a cautious captain, who didn't really clockwork inside, no electricity on Arousic Island in 1914, but a bell twice the size of the replica that's there now was rung by the clockwork. Lighthouse, because it doesn't shine all the way around. The light is blinking and it shines straight down the deep water channel. What makes it work is a second tower. So there are two towers here, one behind the deep water channel. So they too have been here since 1898, guiding ships. And they're still on all of our very advanced electronic navigation systems. Setting up in the south. The Plymouth Company setting up here. They already knew from the explorers that there were trees, there was fur, there were native people they might trade with, fish of unbelievable numbers. So this seemed like a good place for the British to set up a colony. They were also looking for gold. In general, seemed to really like like man-made structures. Flat top buoys, beacons put up by the Coast Guard. There's one certainly on every bridge that we know about. There's actually one growing on the sculpture of Wyoming at the museum. You can take the nests off when they're not around, but once they have built a new nest in the spring, it has to be left untouched. Tied the ship up to the pier to finish up the work. So the fitting out here was for all the detail work that came after the launch. Took it over and built large schooners. He was in direct competition with Percy and Small next door, but he also built 2 ships for the Percy and Small company. Or they built on his property. I'm not quite clear on whether they paid him to build it or just to use his space. Percy and Small is the heart of the museum because it's the only place in the United States and possibly the world where a shipyard that built large wooden ships still exists. The buildings survived because they were used as warehouse space by Sears Roebuck. So by chance they survived until the point where they were recognized as unique survivors. And the museum, which started uptown, moved here. Several smaller shipyards had been here, and the Donnell yard was next door. The Donnell home is part of the museum and it's open, so you can go see how they had a topmast on top of each, which adds another 46 feet. "41 great schooners, 37 King was not only still alive, he had the rank of Brigadier General and Congressional Medal of Honor award, Battle of Antietam. He came here and went into business with his cousin. A few years later, he had assembled some small businesses and he bought a shipyard. So in 1884, Bath Iron Works Limited was set up based on his existing businesses. His idea was to build steel ships with steam plants because other Bath shipbuilders were still building in wood. Some were building steel sailing ships. No one else was building steel steam ships. So he picked the right thing to focus on. His second customer was the U.S. Navy. Lower of the workforce together. World War II came along. They could expand rapidly from 800 workers to 12,000 workers. With the help of the Navy, the Navy knew war was coming and worked with the shipbuilders before war came. They have built racing sailboats. They built one light ship, which is basically a floating lighthouse. They built one battleship for the Navy. They did a lot of battle repairs, overhauls. But now only new ships are being built. So all of the ships we see today are new Arleigh Burke class destroyers. The first ship in the class names the class. So since the first of the ships on land right now are Flight 3, another major change. From the outside, they still basically look the same. The new ones will be a little bit longer and a little bit wider. We also put about $210 million right into new facilities. What we're looking at here is the new facility that did not exist when General Dynamics bought the company, nor did this blue box we're looking at. This is a dry dock, and right now it's sitting on a frame of concrete and steel. When a ship is ready to launch, it rolls on wheels into the ship, into the dry dock. The dry dock doesn't sink because it's already sunk. It's already sitting on concrete foundation. But when the ship really is finished, and right now they're painting the hull, and we'll see some other things later when we come back. When it's truly ready to launch, which means there's some place to tie it up on the fitting out pier, it'll come out here using the chains that run down the side. If you slack the chains on the shore side and tighten the chains on this side, when they have pumped water out of the bottom, that black bottom is a great big water tank, it floats with the ship. These are also called Aegis ships. And that has to do with the battle system and the radar system. So there are large hexagons on DDG 127. They're covered with a white protective cover. Those are radars, not the kind that spin around looking for airplanes, but they are, with the Aegis systems, are connected to each other so that the information put into the battle computer on this ship will be sent to all the other ships that it's working with. So if a number of these destroyers protecting aircraft carrier battle group can all talk to each other, they can all see the big picture. There's a gun on the bow that's basically there for pirates and terrorists. The main weapon, however, 96 guided missiles. Missiles that shoot straight up in the air. It's a vertical launch system. And which missiles are on the ship depends on the mission. So if they are in a place where they're going to be looking for submarines, they have anti-submarine missiles. They also have anti-ship missiles, anti-aircraft missiles. And the more recent ships are capable of anti-missile missiles. We'll hear about these ships occasionally in the news, especially if they're shooting down missiles that have been sent into Israel, because they can knock down missiles that are incoming. They carry 2 helicopters. The Seahawk helicopter is fairly small, fits in a hangar, the 2 hangars on the ship, so they can be protected from the weather when they're not in use. The helicopter is very useful for hunting the submarines, for picking up flyers that have ditched in the water, certainly carrying injured sailors.
Famous BIW crane.
The 2 little circles on the stern of the ship, you might see, they look like big donuts made of stainless steel. They can launch out of there a half-a-mile long microphone. Looks like a big rope covered with tar, but it can listen for the submarines. When it was built, there were several of these kinds of cranes in Asia. So BIW bought the design from Japan. It had to be converted from Japanese to English, but also from metric to feet and inches before the local shipbuilders could assemble it, and that was built right here. And it was, again, the largest crane in the Western Hemisphere. It's still in use. Some of the workers were female. That was a new thing in World War II. They built 82 destroyers during the war, which is more than the entire Empire of Japan built of destroyer-class ships. It averages to 1 every 17 days. So they were building 8 ships on land. There were up to 12 in the water being finished. But every 17 days or so, they would take a ship to Boston to deliver it to the Navy. Passing under a lift bridge, you might look up to see the rails, because the lower level is a railroad bridge. A little more about the bridges when we come back. Bridge, we see a couple of things of interest. One is the gray building with the copper roof. Also the long yellow building that's made of wood. And this replica of the Virginia of Sagadahoc. The red and white flag of St. George means that they're open today. If you have time after you leave the Maritime Museum, you might pop down here to see if you can board the Virginia, see what a ship built in 1608 looked like. Again, it's known to have crossed the where cargo came in by train and went out by ship, and also cargo came in by ship was stored. Fish eat are here in large volume, stirred up by the tidal currents. A very good place for fish. Much of it is also very shallow. It's warmed by the sun, so various kinds of sea worms and other things that live in the mud prosper in the warm mud.
It's a
That means
beautiful
bottom
bridge.
feeders.
I love this little bridge.
Like
Our friend Wendy lives
sturgeon
With the
do
dock?
very well here.
lucky her.
So sturgeon that were once almost extinct in the Kennebec are coming back.
Very good place to write book.
there. She comes to my
They're
house
still
to write one.
protected. You're not allowed to catch them.
Seriously. Some boats.
We've just passed under the bridge that links the mainland to Arousik Island. And there's another bridge that links Arousik Island to Georgetown. So these big islands are entirely accessible by automobile. They're out there. As soon as the bridge was painted dry, the original nest was rebuilt. So as we go back, you'll see the nest on the bridge. It's not in the exact middle. It's in the place where the girders come together. The birds are smart enough to know where there's the least vibration from cars passing over, so they always build in that spot. They're always on this. Also, insulation. We have photographs of one of the ice houses that burned. All the wood burned from the outside, but the ice was still stacked in a great pile. And they actually were able to salvage most of it by just throwing away the outer layer and loading the rest onto ships. So ships would wait until the ice cleared. Ships from many countries would wait in the lower Kennebec until the ice covering the upper river would clear in the spring.
Well, back on shore here. That was an amazing tour, so thanks to my good friend Emily. Highly recommended. Get a chance to do it. Do it.
I love it.
Well, I'm sorry. It says no smoking and you're smoking hot, so I guess.